Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is sponsored by Duke's Mayonnaise. Duke's is the only mayo in my fridge, and this time of year, it's destined for Cherokee purple tomato sandwiches on lightly toasted bread, cool chicken salad, and even a slather or two on corn cobs before they hit the grill. Many Southern chefs and Southern podcasters swear by Duke's, the secret to great food. This wonderful condiment was created by Eugenia Duke in Greenville, South Carolina, more than 100 years ago, and the recipe hasn't changed. Visit dukesmayo.com for more information, or easier yet, just follow my lead and add it to your grocery list to make sure that your fridge always has a jar at the ready. If you can't believe that a mayonnaise can inspire a cult-like following, then you haven't tried Duke's Mayonnaise. Now, it's episode 150, and I can imagine no other guest that personifies any better the South I love. Oxford, Mississippi isn't an easy place to get to if you're accustomed to interstate highways and direct flights. Just the name of this town conjures a rich layer of images. SEC football tailgates, blues music wailing across big cotton field skies, and Faulkner, of course. But layered in all of this is also a hopping culinary scene, and one of its epicenters is Snackbar, a taste on the plate of a South that is even more layered than the town. That's because it's helmed by Vishwesh Bhatt, the 2019 James Beard Foundation's Best Chef South. Vish is a man who cooks from his own heart, and that means using Indian flavors and Southern ingredients, and most of all, keeping in mind that the restaurant business is a people business, focusing on fostering talent in the kitchens and regulars in the dining room, regulars who become friends. You might also catch him as part of the popular SFA dinner series, Brown in the South, or as I did, at a guest chef dinner. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Vish.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, I drove a long way, but not all the way to Oxford to get this interview. We've known each other for a long time, but it's hard to connect. You're running around the country, and so am I, but you're quite the celebrity these days.
Well, I don't know about that, and this doesn't count as a trip to Oxford, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Oh, I know that. I know that for sure. So, in the past week, let's just document where you were, because this is the schedule of Vish these days.
Well, this was just this week. It's not always the schedule. I'm usually to be found at Snackbar 6 days a week. Sometimes I even sneak in on a Sunday. But past week I was in New York, did 2 dinners there, and now I'm in Chattanooga. And I go home today, and then later on this week I will be going to Florence, Alabama for Shindig.
Shindig is always the thing. I haven't been. And you love being at Snackbar. That is your home. I watched you last night. You you cooked quail perfectly for 150 people. I mean, medium rare, gorgeous. And you're just calm, walking around chatting afterwards, didn't look pained, wasn't screaming. Talk about the act of the practice of cooking and running, tasting and expoing on a daily basis. How does that keep you?
I mean, it's just what I do. That's what I've done for, 25 years. So it now just comes naturally. And the food that I put out is only as good as the people who help me put it out are. So, and yesterday we had a really, really good staff from Easy Bistro helping, so it made life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. When you do a typical shift, like a Snackbar Friday night shift, and it's busy and you've got people that you know in there, because it is such it's really the front porch of Oxford. I feel like people just come, they want to hang out every week kind of thing. What's the favorite part of that shift for you? All people that spend time in restaurants, there's a moment that they love as the arc happens. And
the favorite part is, always that people come to Snackbar versus somewhere else. I mean, that's always great. And watching my crew, just crush it every time they do it. They know it's coming. They're ready. Watching the younger kids who have just started with us learn and understand what we do. I mean, that's fun to watch. Growing just summer's a little bit slower and they're kind of muddling through, and all of a sudden, we get into a fall Friday night and there they are. I mean, they've all grown up and know exactly what they're doing, and it makes me just, that gives me immense pleasure just to watch that. And then, walking through the dining room when I can, doing some table touches, just checking in with our regulars. I mean, they're the ones that make us go, the ones that keep coming back over and over and over again. Just checking in with them, that's also a lot of fun.
How do you know, I ask this question a lot, and I'm always interested in the answer, it never gets old. When you're hiring somebody, especially in our industry where it's just a thing, that trying to get people all the time, how do you know what is that spark that you say, they're going to be a good employee? I think I want to try out this one.
Well, it's a little bit different for me. I think everybody has potential. And everybody has different strengths. I mean, so somebody may not make the greatest grill person ever, or may not love working a fryer, but they might be really good on the pantry, or they might be really good with seasoning things. So I hire, if anybody shows interest in working and interest in learning and teaching, because I'm never done learning. So if there's somebody there that can show me things that I haven't seen, they come from a different background, or they have to like food. That's the key. Other than that,
we took one of your best and brightest, that bartender, eater, young gun, Jace McConnell, who's been on the Southern Fork. He definitely has come out of there and grown and become his own person, and lots of fancy articles too. Who are some of the other people that have really come out of the kitchens that you get to visit around the country?
I don't really get a chance to visit a lot of them. We have a couple of folks that have gone to Houston to work for Chef Chris Shepard. My first sous chef is now in Atlanta. He was in Chicago working for the Publican Group. He's just taken a job in Atlanta, so hopefully I'll get to see him a little bit. A couple of folks have gone on. Jace has gone to South Carolina. A couple other guys now also in Charleston. One of them working.
I just want to know so I can make a note to eat at all these places.
Right.
I'm like, did you work with Vish? All right, I'm making a reservation.
So there's one at McIntosh.
Well, I mention all of this because when you won, after much ado, this year, the James Beard South, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I love watching that show. It's the Food Oscars, and I haven't had the chance to go yet, but I watch it on the live feed and just cry, just like, cry everybody. And I was yelling, cheering. It was a great year for the South.
It was.
This year. But when that happened, there was a collective thank goodness it's about time. And I'm sure that you felt that swell of outpouring of love.
Absolutely. I mean, and I've always felt that. I mean, I've had a really good group of friends and then family support. I mean, that's always been, something that's been very important to me. Something that's kept me going, something that's kept me in Oxford. I mean, I'm in Oxford because I have a great family in John and in City Grocery Restaurant Group and the town. So that was, amazing. And then through that, and through Southern Fooders Alliance, which is also based in Oxford, my extended Southern family of chefs and food writers, and who have all been very good to me and taught me along the way, and brought me along as they move along. So it was great to have a lot of those people in the room that day.
Obviously, you were very pleased, and you obviously know that you're a good chef. I feel like as a food writer, I often say the dumbest things when I'm eating really good food because, I'll write it down later, but in the moment I'm like, this is really good. Like you don't have the good words, to say subtlety. But do you feel like it's shifted or changed your position or cemented it?
That's a tough question. I mean, I don't think of myself as a very good chef because I look around and I see people that are way better than I am. And I have so much more to learn and do. So, I know that the food I cook tastes good. At least it tastes good to me. I don't put anything on a plate that I don't like. But in general, I mean, what this has done is, it's a validation, yes, but also now it comes with the responsibility that you actually have to live up to.
Yes.
Until now, it was sort of, just sort of there hanging up, like this is what you aspire to. Now that you actually have the medal around your neck, it changes the dynamics of what is expected of you.
Yes.
Now people expect excellence every time, high performance every time. There's added pressure for that, and less room for mistakes.
And I've had Merwan on the show. I've had Chidi on the show.
Right.
I've had Minnie on the show. So we're doing the Brown in the South tour here at the Southern Fork, basically. But that's been something that has really taken off.
It has, and I think it's something. Time has come. I mean, the story with Brown in the South is very simple. We are all Southern chefs. We just happen to, all be of Indian origin. We all live in the South. We all work in the South. We cook Southern food. It may taste a little bit different than what people think of as traditional Southern food. But traditional Southern food tasted and looked different when the Italian immigrants arrived, and the Lebanese immigrants arrived, and the Polish and the Germans. So each group comes in. Each group adds what they have. Their influences and their culture, and that's how this tapestry grows. This is how this quilt, becomes more vibrant, and we're just glad we were a part of that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about that. I wrote about that for Savour, the South headed in a new culinary direction, that we're looking at all of that kind of connections, communication between different cultures through the plate, which I think is super great. I read an article about you, NPR did a couple of years ago, that was talking about when you landed and you were in Texas and you saw tortillas and you're like, oh, I know what these are.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you've been here such a long time, and I'd like to know, you're always learning. So what is it that how do you teach yourself something new? How do you learn? Is there something where you're leaning into, okay, I'm going to try to work on that ingredient, or?
Well, I mean, I say that
I'm more fluid than that.
It is, but also, I mean, what I'm learning is, learning flavors. I am not very good at learning new techniques. I don't know a whole lot of fancy techniques. I know what I know, and that's it. But what I'm learning is how to season things differently. For example, just trying my hand with North African flavors, because there's a lot of
that was Ras El Hanout last night, right?
So exactly, and there's a lot of familiar ingredients there. The ratios are different, so that's sort of like let's try that, or trying. I learned from someone when you're making a cake, you can add mayonnaise to give it a nice texture. I did not know that.
Right.
So little things like that always pop up. Things like, if you have pork chops, brine them. I always knew about brining, big cuts of meat or chicken and stuff like that. But then learning about, hey, you could also do that to smaller things, just get it brine it for a smaller amount of time.
And pork chops in general, they're just, people think it's such a pedestrian cut of meat. It is. So it's the one thing that is consistently bad at all the restaurants that I eat at. I mean, if somebody hands me a pork chop, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. The best one I've ever had was Bertha's, where they brine it and then deep fry it. So
there you go,
So
I haven't, but see, now I learned that. I haven't done that, but then now it's time to do that. When I go back, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you've got to go to Bertha's and have that. And I was stuck on the fried chicken because, you get what you want. You stand in line for 30 minutes, you're ready to have what you want. And they looked at me and they were like my aunties, and they said, baby, you need a pork chop today. And when somebody says that to you, you can't
say no.
No. So
I was
not
like, there anyway. Yeah.
No, and I was like, okay. And then I just, had a little tear when I tasted it.
Right.
It was really, really good. You're in Mississippi, and I think we have to touch on the politics kind of the South, and especially right now in Mississippi. You've cooked, you live. I feel like this time and the South is such a vibrant place creatively. We all are.
Yeah.
And I live in that bubble where we all, meet and see each other. What has frustrated you about cooking and living and working?
The cooking part, there's never any frustration. The living part and the working part, there are frustrations with, Mississippi is a place that has some really serious flaws, and we all know that. I mean, it's not like we don't know it, and we just we know them, and yet we do nothing to address them. We just sort of sidestep, and the cracks keep getting bigger in my mind. And that's unfortunate. And the other part that's unfortunate is we have a lot of creative talent in the state of Mississippi. We have a lot of good things that we can't shine a light on because we keep getting in our own way. We refuse to accept, that this is a new age and a new time. And unfortunately, we have statewide leadership that's stuck in the past. Just not ready to acknowledge that it's time to move on and make this place better, and that's really, really frustrating. I mean, it's
right.
And even not just we live in a progressive. I live in a progressive, or reasonably progressive town of Oxford, as far as rest.
It's kind of like Charleston in South Carolina. It's a little pocket.
Right. It's a little pocket, and we have a lot of good things happening in Oxford, and yet we have a street named for Jefferson Davis, and why can't we just rename that street? I mean, why do we have to have that street? Why can't we name it for Medgar Evers, who's a Mississippi hero? Whatever, doesn't matter. And then just things like that really annoy me because the past is the past, and you can't change history, but you need to look at it, you need to address it, and you need to say, hey, these things were wrong. And if you can't see these things are wrong, then you have a serious problem. It's
acknowledgement before healing. That's just the tenet of therapy, really. And I think acknowledgement. When, that's a small thing, and in a lot of people's minds are like, well, just leave it. It's Jefferson Davis, whatever lane or road. So just leave that, But we all know that roads are after people that we want to revere, right?
That's, or at least that's what we think, right? That's how we name things. We can name things after presidents and, people that had done, civic leaders and such. So, to me, naming Jefferson Davis Street might as well go ahead and, name Osama bin Laden Street right next to it. I don't mean the guy, as far as I could tell, was a traitor. I don't really know a whole lot of history, but he didn't want to be an American, so why do we have to have a street name for him? I don't get it.
Right. So that's frustrating when you are continuing to live there and those cracks are getting wider. How do you work at that grassroots level with, I mean, John is extremely vocal. He's on Twitter. He's doing that. What do you see your role as?
I mean, my role is to keep doing what I do. I mean, to show that diversity is good, to show that, that immigrants bring a lot of positive, to show that the South and the rest of the world are more deeply connected than people realize.
Right.
And that's, that's my job. That's what we try to do through Brown in the South. That's what I do through my cooking, to showcase. I mean, think about the South and think about something as Southern as sweet tea, and you realize that neither tea nor sugar are from the South.
Yes, right. Nor lemons.
Yeah. So, and there we have, so that's, so the idea is if we look at it like that, and if we open our eyes and see how many cultures and how many people have influenced what we do, how our food has been influenced, how we live has been influenced, what we wear has been influenced by other places, then all of a sudden it makes the world a smaller place, and maybe we look at people slightly differently. Right. That's I think that's the start.
Right.
And have conversations as much as we can with people who are willing to have conversations. So I think that's the key, to find people who are willing to have a conversation. I mean, this day and age, we've got so many people that just shut themselves up. If you're slightly different, then it's over.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yes.
So you just, have to find, you have to find a way to talk. And I think food is one place that we still have to eat. And so we do come together there. So that's a hopefully it's a conversation starter.
I believe that. That's why I do what I do. Now, watching you move through the world and actually hearing your schedule the last week, and the idea that you're in Snackbar 6 days a week, at its best and brightest, what you do is a life of service. You are serving the guest and you are cooking for that guest, and that life of service is a commitment. It is almost a vocation and a calling type thing versus just a job.
Right.
That's going to get you on the Food Network, right? We know how you've served us because it's evident. You taste your food and you can just taste love and care and connection and depth. It's just delicious and wonderful. And you're great with guests. And you're working hard. You're working a lot of different places. So we know what you've given us, but you've been doing this in service at this pace for 25 years. What has it given you?
And it's given me a purpose. It's given, as you said, it's almost like a calling. It gave me a reason to do something. I was floundering, and I was in college, and doing things in college that people do in college, and didn't really have a clue until I found this. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's something I can do, and realize that I could be reasonably good at it. And let's not kid ourselves. A lot of this is also narcissistic, because I like hearing people say my food is good, and it makes me feel good at the end of the day, and like, I did something good, and give myself a pat on the back. So that helps as well.
Well, we want to know that when we're creative, we want to know that people get what we're creating and they like it. Yeah. It's the best thing ever.
Sure, yeah. But it gives me, sort of this feeling of, at the end of the day, that, hey, I hopefully we made some people happy, and that's always nice. It's a good thing to go home to.
Do you see that? Do you see that spark happen in sometimes your kitchen staff or your, do you see them go, oh, instead of, hey, this is great for now, and I'm learning some cool stuff that I'm going to be able to use? Or do you see them catch it and go, oh, it's got to be like a that's a percentage at this point.
I do. I mean, some catch it right away, which is why they want to come work with me or work, in this business. I mean, a lot of people. Some people, we're a college town, so some people just want a college, job. I mean, like I did when I was their age, and I wanted beer money, so I started working in restaurants. They do. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's fun to watch, fun to sort of see them kind of start getting, especially, when they get feedback or, I want to make sure that they, will come through. And it's like if there are people that they know in the dining room, I want them to go out and say hello. And so when they walk through, they see other people as well. And it's a nice, some don't get it. Many don't get it, but there are a few that catch on, and hopefully they stay in this business because we need people like that.
Right. Okay, you won Best Chef South, which is just amazing. So what's next? What makes you hungry? What are you hungry for?
I mean, I'm hungry for, right now, some, sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits. Right?
I know. I was like, I need a biscuit. We should have done this over biscuits, right?
Right. What comes next? I don't know. I mean, this. It's we're about to walk into a football season starting next week. Changes the world in Oxford. So the immediate thing I need to do is make sure we're ready because we have a lot of young and green staff. So that's sort of the immediate thing. But long term, it's I just sold a book to Norton, so I'll be writing.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. Say, yay! We're going to get your okra.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. Not that I can do it like you, but
sure you can. The recipe will be in the book whenever I finish doing my part. So that's next. But I mean, to continue teaching, because I can't do what I do forever. So we need to, I need to find people that want to do this, and it's not, and find people that not do what I do, but who want to do and show off what they have. It's their time to shine, and so find the next person who wants to to show off what they can do, whether it's their flavors or techniques or just like I've gotten to a point where I put something on the plate and most people will recognize that it's something I've cooked. So I'm looking for the next person that does that.
And that's a signature. That's a spot where it's like a writer, you find your style. And one day somebody said, Jennifer Cole, who's really one of my first amazing editors, she called me one time and just told me all this stuff about my articles. She was a really hard editor. And she goes, basically, we hired you to write like Stephanie Burt, and you're trying to write like we think we want.
Right.
And I was like, she was like, just write this like Stephanie Burt. And I thought, what? I got off the phone and was like, what does that mean? Right. I went down the rabbit hole of existentialism for a minute. But you found that spot. And when you eat your food...
the spot found me. It's for me, it was, I fell into it. And, I've been very fortunate. That my struggles haven't been as hard as a lot of other people's struggles. I've been very fortunate with that. But, everybody has something that, again, I've said this earlier, that they can contribute, and I'm looking for that next person. I don't really know who it is, or just start telling me to, like, hey, get out of the way, old man, let me show you how it's done. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So what's one aspect of your job that really showcases an aspect of your personality? In other words, it's a good puzzle piece fit.
Cooking. I grew up in a big family, eating and always having food around. So that is sort of an automatic fit for me. I just think of the restaurant as an extension of that, and which is why I like to walk around the dining room and sort of talk to people, because I feel like that was just something I did as a kid. I just watching my mom and dad entertain all the time and have big dinner parties. So that I just treat every service as a big dinner party.
I love that. And how many seats is Snackbar?
90.
Yes, that's a big dinner party every night. What keeps you up at night?
Besides the aches and pains.
How much ibuprofen?
I mean, what keeps me up at night is the fear that I'm not doing a good enough job teaching. That maybe, you know, I'm being too harsh on the kids sometimes. You know, so I have to, you know, I always worry about that. And, like, you know, I hope I didn't come across the wrong way. I mean, I always want them to teach, I mean, to learn and move forward. And, you know, I realize that a lot of these kids don't really want to go into cooking
but you need them to be there for that time.
Yes.
Right.
And sometimes it's, you know, I've always worried that I might, you know, be too harsh. And that worries me.
Well, and that brings up a point that I can't repeat enough on the Southern Fork, is when you're actually an executive chef of a restaurant, you're creating recipes and stuff and different preps and flavors, because everything on that plate is created in-house. Mm-hmm. So once that happens, then you have to teach each person at the station what you're doing. And then they have to replicate it. And most of the time, the executive chefs stand at Expo and check things, and you'll go in and taste, right? Before that. Is that when the correction happens for you? Is during the tasting part? I mean, obviously nuances and stuff, but if you have something bigger to discuss, do you wait until after service, or when do you?
I mean, usually, I mean, again, I'm very fortunate that once they have what they need to do, and I'm you know, again, I'm there every morning prepping, so I have an idea of what the sauces taste like and all that stuff before we get into service. And the corrections that happen on the line are usually like, hey, you know, flip that fish a little bit sooner, or you know, or let the skin get crispier. That sort of stuff. I don't need, or you know, watch the salt. Really minor things. The things that I, you know, that concern me most are, you know, things like, you know, the fundamentals, like, okay, you know, give me a list. I'm coming in the morning to prep. I need to know how much of something we've used, you know, so I know how to make, you know, be accurate about it, because I just don't like, very strongly dislike when we're in the middle of service and somebody says, I can't find something, you know. That's where, you know, I tend to blow a fuse, and you know, just so teaching people like, hey, you know, when you're setting up your station, or just being more organized. And I mean, I have a problem being organized, so I know how hard it is. But you know, the thing is, that's the key. I mean, if you're organized and you know where things are, that's so much, makes life so much easier for you when you're working that station. That's not easy to work. It's hot. You know, people are yelling at you constantly, and you know, I'm in your ear, and you know, so. But if you have everything, and that's you know, that's what I try to just hammer. You know, like, make sure you have what you need to make whatever it is you're making, and that's you know, that's when I sort of tend to lose it if it's not there, and then I, you know, worry about maybe I was too you know.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. That happens. And, you know, we all know our triggers. Yeah. I went to a restaurant, let's see, last week, and they were out. I ordered a draft beer, and they were out of that one, and they were out of the next one. And I was like, okay, so it took me 3 tries to get a beverage. And then when I went to order a snack, they said, anything but this, this, and this. So they were out of 3 things, and it was a Friday night. So they didn't order well.
Right.
Somebody didn't pay attention. Right. And I thought, this is, if, as a person who's in restaurants, I immediately thought, well, your food's going to be sloppy too, whatever it is, because you can't seem to order correctly. Then that's just the beginning. If you don't know what you're going to have on the menu, or it's Friday coming, then, you know, one thing is fine. That's a different thing. So organization teaches, it's the building block, I think, for all of that. But there are like unspoken lessons that your diners will learn if things are like that. Like we ran out of, you know, a special is one thing, but running out of something that you always have or not having something. Which brings us, well, it can't be a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit because that's, that's the current need. I just want an egg and cheese. What is that meal that we all talk about? If I had to eat one last meal, what would it be?
Somebody else asked me this. Kat asked me this a few months back.
She stole it from me. Sorry, Kat. No, she did not. It's a common question. We all ask it, right?
No, and then the answer then, the answer remains the same. I think if I could go back and have one meal, it's the meal I had at Magnolia Grill with Ben and Karen Barker. I mean, that would be,
yes.
I would, that was so special. I mean, and I've eaten with them, a few times, but just that one meal when Teresa and I went for our anniversary, and they just, rolled out the red carpet and took care of us. So that would be one.
And what were some of the things that they made? Do you
Wow,
know?
yeah. I mean, there were peas, and there was fish, and there was wreck fish, and there were poached shrimp, and there was, there was cornbread with sorghum butter. I mean, it was just,
and that was
simple.
My first restaurant cookbook. I got it when I was in
Not
college.
Afraid of Flavor. Yeah.
Not Afraid of Flavor. Still on my bookshelf today.
Yeah.
Great cookbook.
It's
intimidating because you're like, oh yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
So that's definitely one, and I also eating with family. I mean, that's I love that. So it doesn't matter what it is, just kind of sitting down and
munching.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to learn more about Vish and Snackbar and the new book, which I'm already excited about, and all the amazing things that the City Grocery Restaurant Group does in Oxford, Mississippi, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have images there of Vish as well as a couple beautiful dishes that he creates and an image of the restaurant. If you like what you hear, John Current, who we mentioned today, also has an episode in the archives from earlier this year. Kat Kinsman, who we just mentioned, I've had her on the Southern Fork as well. And Chidi Kumar and Mirwan Irani and Maneet Chawan. All of these people have been on the Southern Fork. So that means you want to know us? Dive into those archives. There are more than 150 interviews waiting for you so that you can join us at the next table. It is very, very delicious. Thank you so much for coming today, Vish.
Thanks for having me.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. I am here today to tell you, my dear darling friends, that we are in a golden age of mushroom consumption in the United States. Now, before you get all excited, don't think that I'm talking about a certain kind of magic mushroom. I'm talking about mushrooms that you're going to see on restaurant plates. Growing up, I don't know about you, but I just saw button mushrooms. I did not have a forager in the family, and so it was definitely very much the produce section of my suburban grocery store, and button mushrooms were the thing. We had a few mushrooms and spaghetti, and my mom taught me a recipe years and years ago when I was little that I still love today, and that's sauteed, sliced button mushrooms, sauteed in a lot of butter and a lot of garlic. It's still one of my favorite side dishes today, but I remember when portobellos hit the market, right? They were gourmet suddenly, but we live in a golden age of mushrooms. If you actually go to any fine dining restaurants, you are more likely to see chanterelles, morels, chicken of the woods, lion's mane, and a bunch of different kind of mushrooms. If you listen to my podcast with Clark Barlow, we talked a lot about mushrooms, but if you're like me, the other mushrooms, the new mushrooms that are the old mushrooms, kind of seem a little intimidating. Go for it. They're delicious. Take my word for it. The lion's mane is the one that's the most challenging for me. It looks like a big hairy ball, like it came out of Pixar Studios, honestly. But sliced and grilled, oh my goodness, or sauteed in that butter and garlic, come on, it's delicious. Go to a beautiful restaurant in your neighborhood or city. Chances are they're going to be serving a mushroom that maybe you haven't tasted. It's a great way to try something new in a category that you thought you knew. So anyway, in the meantime, I'll be over here eating chanterelles, morels, and chicken of the woods in a beautiful pasta. Talk to you later. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you gonna eat all that?